So in today's show, we're going to break down the latest study finding that physical activity, that is exercise, is protective against both severe and moderate COVID-19-like illness. We're going to talk about the classic symptoms of a moderate infection, which includes shortness of breath, a cough, fatigue, muscle aches. Guess what? If you exercise prior to being infected, the chances are that you're much less likely to experience those moderate and severe symptoms. Now, this was a study involving over 452 subjects in the country of Luxembourg. Scientists there surveyed people once they had a confirmed positive case between the months of May 2020 and May of 2021. And they were scientists and investigators followed up with these individuals after they had a confirmed infection and said, hey, let's learn a little bit more. Tell us more about your physical activity levels. How many hours a day did you walk? Did you bike to work? Are you gardening? Did you do any recreational fitness activity? What are your habits like? And they stratified people and put them into different clusters and groups. And it turns out that people in the upper quartile of physical activity were much less likely to experience the common classic symptoms. Now, this is important. A lot of people are still concerned, rightfully so, potentially about long haul COVID. Well, people say I'm still masked even though I'm vaxxed because X, Y, and Z. I'm worried about the long haul stuff. I don't want fatigue. I don't want the cardiovascular issues. I don't want the lung damage. Okay, well, if that is true and you're still wearing a mask while you walk your dog in a park, are you exercising? Okay, besides walking the dog. I mean, you get the point, right? If we're serious as a culture about preventing any and all infection and any lasting symptoms from that infection, which is inevitably going to happen for most people, are you exercising? Because if you're not, you're missing out on a key therapeutic intervention that is accessible. And as the study found, about the metabolic equivalent units of 80 per week. And I'll break down what these are in just a moment. This is how scientists and researchers in public health and epidemiology are able to quantify physical activity. And I think, again, what's important about this is I know some people just don't like going to the gym and doing structured recreational fitness. I love that stuff, but I'm different. Some people just do not like that. Maybe you're one of the folks that just loves to go out and ride your bike or garden or clean the house or wash the windows, wash the car, chop wood. Guess what? All of that is protective, this study found. So you don't have to do structured recreational fitness. You just need to move your body. You need to move your body about 150 to 200 minutes per week, as this study found. So we're going to dive into the details, friends, and talk about the major flaw and the major sort of myopic thinking that public health experts forgot about, and that is the importance of fitness. When they closed the parks, gyms, hiking trails in the state of Washington, where I live, you could not go on a hike in nature during COVID. Like, they closed the trails. And there was all sorts of caution tape on the playgrounds. Kids couldn't even go on a playground. My family had the police called on us because, heaven forbid, we went on and put my daughter, she was 8 years old, on a swing set. Literally, the cops came. I mean, this is how absurd everything had gotten, okay? Those people were wrong, very wrong. So I'm using this moment to reflect upon history. Those that don't know their history shall repeat it. And it's important to understand that we now have 7 studies, my friends, 7 studies showing that regular exercise and physical activity, it saves lives. So if we're going to do every little thing and mask 2-year-olds, okay, and make 12-year-olds get booster shots before they go to summer camp, where's the emphasis on exercise? It needs to be there, friends, if we're going to take public health seriously. So before we dive into it, as always, friends, I want to thank you for being here. My name is Mike Mutzel. I'm really grateful that you are here. Thank you for hitting this like button, this like button right here. Thank you for sharing this video. I'd be honored if you could leave a comment and so forth below. Also, we have t-shirts and we have products that can help you get a little bit more out of your exercise session. If you exercise, if you fast, if you go in the sauna, definitely check out the electrolyte sticks from Myoscience. I'll put links below, friends. This is a really unique combination of electrolytes that features real salt, not that cheap USP Morton's table salt. You want real salt, ancient sea salt. You want creatine, you want taurine, you want chelated minerals. That's all provided for you. Links below, and you can use the coupon code podcast to save over at myoscience.com. So check it out, Myoscience, where you can save with the code podcast at checkout. So let's continue on and break down the study and talk about the important takeaways here and the application. So the title of the study that was published in BMJ Open is Associations Between Physical Activity Prior to Infection and COVID-19 Disease Severity and Symptoms. Results from this prospective pre-COVID cohort study. So this is an ongoing cohort, as I mentioned, about 450 some odd subjects over the age of 18. And essentially what they found is that individuals that had the MET score, so this is MET units per week. I'm going to share with you table 1, which is right here. I think this table towards the bottom really sort of conveys the story. And what you're looking at here is more than 82 MET hours per week. Now, you might say, well, what is a metabolic equivalent task? So these are little sort of buckets that scientists can quantify and directly assess. So when they're conducting studies like this and stratifying people into different cohorts based upon how many MET units or MET hours they have achieved, they can link some associations. And for example, individuals who have less than 30 MET hours per week were much more probable to have severe or moderate symptoms. Again, some of the symptoms, we're talking about muscle aches, we're talking about fatigue, a dry cough, lingering challenges, headaches, and the sort. Well, it turns out that if you get, about an hour of movement per day, we're talking gardening, walking, lifting weights. Again, the scientists stratified this and they asked people in the last year prior to your infection, what did you do on the weekends? What did you do? How did you get to work? Did you drive? Did you take the train, or did you ride your skateboard, or did you walk? And it turns out that the people that moved more were much less likely to have severe illness. Now, this is not surprising. Some people have commented, because I shared a video on my Instagram about an hour ago, said, why do we even need a study to show this? You're right. It's common sense. If you're more physically active, guess what? You're more likely to have better blood sugar control, lower chronic inflammation. You're more likely to have better oxygenation of your blood. You're more likely to have more cardiorespiratory fitness. So when there's a stress or a burden on your lungs because they are infected, you're much more likely to oxygenate your blood better, right? You're used to these hormetic and stressors that can enable you to survive under conditions of environmental extreme, i.e. a respiratory infection. So it's not surprising. But think about what I just said there, and think about how the policymakers said that it was dangerous to go to the gym. They arrested people for going to parks. They closed down parks. Remember, there was a skateboard park in Santa Monica, and tractors came in and bulldozers filled all the half pipes and the bowls and so forth, filled it with sand so kids couldn't skateboard. People were arrested for kite surfing and surfing in Los Angeles by themselves in the middle of the ocean, my friend. So you act like I'm being irrational sharing this. Oh, Mike, why are you sharing this data about, exercise? It's so obvious. Well, if it was so obvious, then why did all of those people get arrested? Because the health authorities said leaving your home was dangerous. You had to stay inside. In the UK, there was moms wanted to go on a walk. They went out hiking, and the authorities, this was a national story in the UK that made international news. Authorities went after these women and said, you can't be leaving your home walking because of a pandemic. I mean, this is not an isolated event. Again, we need to understand the history, my friends, so that we're all aware about the fact that people can be wrong. Health experts can be wrong. They were wrong, okay? We haven't received any sort of acknowledgement about the fact that they were wrong, but I think it's important. And it's not just pointing out that they were wrong. It's pointing out, okay, how can we learn from this and improve upon our public health messaging going forward and make fitness and healthy living part of the conversation, which has been unfortunately ignored. So in various research studies, including this one, physical activity is quantified via the MET, which stands for a metabolic equivalent task. So for example, walking to work would be the equivalent of 3 METs. So if you walk to work every single day, 5 days a week, that would be the equivalent of 15 MET hours per week. So as I just mentioned earlier, about the individuals who got the sickest got less than 30 MET hours per week. Now, individuals who were most protected by exercise and had the lowest prevalence of symptoms, including the aches and the muscle aches and the pain, the shortness of breath and the cough and so forth, got 80 MET hours per week. So let's just say you walk to work and you garden on Saturday, which would be the equivalent of 4 Met hours per week. Then you go on a bike ride with your buddies on Sunday. Maybe you do a hike or something to that effect, and you go to the gym 3 or 4 days per week. You are over about 60 Met hours per week, which puts you right in sort of that middle sweet spot of optimum protection when it comes to some of this data. And this is not just this study here from the scientists and investigators in Luxembourg, but other studies have actually looked at this, how many Met hours per week. And you might remember the Kaiser Permanente study. There was other studies that we've looked at from South Korea and also Sweden. So this is nothing new, but this study was what's unique. And the main findings from this study is regular physical activity in the year leading up to the exposure, that we're all going to get exposed to this pathogen at this point, that around 80 Met hours per week was the sweet spot, the optimum protection, which is on the that's the upper bound benefit. But if you can get between 40 and 60 Met hours per week, that is going to be ideal. So what does this really mean? This means that the health experts have been wrong about this. We have undervalued the protective effect of regular physical activity and exercise. We hear so much about masking and hand sanitizer and booster shots for 12-year-olds. We don't really hear about the protection of walking to work instead of driving. We don't really hear about how great it can be to go on a hike with your family. About, instead of using a robot to vacuum your house, why don't you just get out the vacuum yourself and do the work? Because physical activity moves blood, it moves lymph. It's good for improving blood sugar regulation and control, and doing, all the things that are known to be protective, especially when it comes to immunologic health and protecting against pathogen exposure. So the scientists go on to say it is important to recognize that this study and others have found that even activities of daily living, such as walking and gardening, are still protective. Remember, gardening for an hour on the weekend is 4 Met hours, right? So that gets you about 5% of the way to 80 Met hours per week. And so it's very important that we layer in recreational movement in addition to our structured exercise sessions, 3 to 4 days per week. So in conclusion, mounting evidence suggests from various investigators throughout the world that regular physical activity and exercise can help protect against moderate and severe illness associated with COVID-19. There was even one study that found reduced odds of death with exercise. So just because the health experts said we need to close the gyms, fitness centers, parks, and arrest people for paddleboarding in the middle of the ocean by themselves, that doesn't mean that they were right. People can be wrong. And we've seen a lot of wrong. We've seen maybe perhaps the intentions were good. I don't necessarily think they were good intentions, but let's just assume that the intent was good from these health experts, okay? Well, they were wrong because they underemphasized the importance of getting out and de-stressing, of moving the body, being in nature, and connecting with nature and one's body by way of exercise. So, my friends, check out the study. I'll link it below. Please share this. We need to spread the message that healthy living can actually save lives, irrespective of what some pundit said that doesn't recognize the importance of exercise. So we got to spread this message loud, far and wide. Thank you for helping with that. As always, I'm grateful that you were here. Get out there. Just try to stay active. Again, if you can do your regular structured physical activity, that's going to get you in the neighborhood of 30 Met hours per week. If you can train 3 to 4 days per week pretty hard, that's going to get you about 30 Met hours per week. Then if you can just walk to work 1 day a week and go for a bike ride or a hike on the weekend, do some gardening, mow the lawn, do some things like that, you're going to be at that 80 Met hours per week. And that is what the study showed and others have showed is around the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot in terms of disease protection, preventing obesity, non-communicable diseases like cardiovascular disease, like cancer, which, as we talked about before, claim a lot of lives, about 1.2 million lives in 2021. So as always, my friends, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.